Welcome once again to e-design and craft tutorials. Today I'll be showing you how to make a baby bed or a baby crib. What you need, the materials needed for a baby crib are: you need your lining, you need your fabric, you need fiber, and you need decron. If you don't have fiber, you can use flat foam. Flat foam, this something like this. Flat foam like this. You can use 1 inch or 2 inches foam to do it. If you don't have the decron, you can cut pieces of foams. You can cut this foam into pieces and then use to fill it. So let's start. The length we are using is 40 inches by 30 inches. That's what I'm using. The length is 40 inches, while my width is 30 inches. So after getting this, the area of the material that I need to use, I now measured 7 inches. 7 inches from the side, from the edge. 7 inches, 7 inches, 7 inches to the top. I did the same for the other side. Then I now measured 7 inches from up, from the edge here up, inside. I now did the same. I measured another 7 inches from down here to this point, and I mark. That's why you're seeing this mark. That's why you're seeing this mark like this. This is from here to here, 7 inches. From here to here, 7 inches. From here to here, another 7 inches. So I'll have like a cross inside. So the next thing I'll do is, from this line, on this line, I'll measure 3 inches and I mark. I measured 3 inches here and I mark. And then diagonally, I measure 2 inches and I mark. After marking, I now join it with a cuff. That's how I got this cuff. I'll do the same for the other side. I did it already to save time. And then, if you want this your edge to be square like this, it's okay. But I don't want mine to be square. So what I did was, I measured 7 inches from this cuff. 7 inches I marked. 7 inches I marked. 7 inches I marked. 7 inches I marked till I joined again with this line. Then I got this my cuff. That's how I got this cuff. After that, from this line, from this 7 inches line here, you measure 1 inch upwards. That's your seam allowance. That's all we need to do. The first thing you do is you get the fabric. I said my own is 40 inches by 30 inches. The next thing is mark 7 inches from the edges, 7 inches from here, from down, from the top, from the other side. After that, come to this point. Measure 3 inches from here downwards, mark. 3 inches from here, mark. Diagonally 2 inches, you join a cuff. You do the same for the other side. Then you come here, mark 7 inches from this cuff. Mark 7 inches outwards. Mark your point. Keep marking the point. Mark the point. Then you join. You do the same for the other side. If the measurement you made from the edge here to the inside was 6 inches, you know that from here to get this cuff, you're going to be measuring 6 inches. Since I measured 7 inches from the edge, that's why I'm making this cuff with 7 inches. So the next thing I'll do, I've already marked everything out. So the next thing I'll do is I'll cut. I'm going to cut off this point. Where my 7-inch point stopped at the downside, I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut. Okay, I've done that. So this is what I have. This is what I have. I'm going to cut off this place to give me this curve. To give me this nice curve. I'm going to do the same for this side. Okay, this is what I now have. So I'm going to transfer this pattern to my fabric. I'll do that and then I'll come back to show you what next to do. So I have finished cutting out the material, the fabric and the lining. I use the pattern to cut out my fabric and my lining. I've cut it out. So, and I've also pinned it down. I've pinned it round to hold two of them together. So the next thing I'll do now is, under my pattern, I cut out the center. This is the center of my pattern. This center, I cut it out. This is, let me place it on this side so that you can see it well. I cut out that center. The center that had the curve inside. This is it. Remember this part. I cut it out and I now placed it on my fabric. I placed it at the exact point that it is supposed to be. On this opening, I'll place it at the exact point. And then I marked it. After marking, okay, I'll tell you what to do with that line. So right now, I am going to go and sew round. I'm going to go sew round, sew round, sew round. After sewing round, I'll come back to show you what next to do. Welcome back. So I finished sewing. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that the lining will be placed on the right side, on this right side of the material. So I've placed it and I've sewn around. So the next thing I'll do now is to turn. I'll turn it. Then this sewing, I sewed round, all round. Then I left this opening. I did not close this opening and I did not close these two sides. Here I did not close it, and here I did not also close it. So there are three openings. So from this bigger space, I'll turn. So I'm turning now. Okay, I finished turning. After turning, remember I said that I'm going to place this pattern, the middle of the pattern that I cut it out. I'm going to place that middle on this place, taking note of this edge, this opening here. This opening here. I'm going to place it and mark that exact shape. I'm going to mark that exact shape. I've marked. After marking, I'll pin it down. I'm pinning it down. I'm going to sew. After pinning it down, I'm going to sew round this point that I marked. You can see I'm going to sew round that point. Welcome back. So after sewing round the marked point where we traced using the pattern, the next thing you do is you lace trimming. get a lace trimming. I couldn't get my hand on it. I've not gone out, so I could not get my hand on the lace trimming. So you get a lace trimming about 2 inches. On this point, the point between where you sewed the main material and the lining. Remember, this lining you can still use the main material as the lining too, as you wish. You can use the main material as you use it as your lining too, especially if you're selling it. This one is not for sale. So at this point where you joined your main material to the lining, to the material under, you have your lace trimming. Before we round up this class, I'll show you what a lace trimming looks like. Before we round up the training, I'll show you. When I get to the market, I'll buy it. So on this point between this material and the lining, you place the lace trimming. I'm using my lining. I just cut about 2 inches of my lining. So you place it like this. So part of the trimming will rest on the lining, the other part will rest on the main material. It has to be long. It has to be long, so that you start sewing. You sew on this side all round the material of the crib, of the baby bed. Then you also sew on this side. You sew on the 2 sides of the trimming like this. Then you have a hole. You have a hole inside. That space, after sewing everything inside this space, you now get a rope. Get a rope. Buy a rope from the market, or you can use ribbon. Put a safety pin a safety pin to it, and then put it inside that hole. Put it all round. So I'm going to do that and come back to show you what to do. I'll explain again. After sewing round the pattern, after sewing round the mark that we marked, you now get your lace trimming. You sold in the market. I think it's about 20 naira a yard or so. Lace trimming. You come to this place. The line between the main material and the lining. I said you can still use this same material as your lining as you wish. So on this line, you place your trimming. One part of your trimming will rest on the lining, and the other part will rest on the main material. And then you sew on the 2 sides. You sew here and sew here, and then you have a space inside all round the circumference of the crib. So after sewing, you now get either a rope or a ribbon, pin a safety pin on it, and then insert it into this hole till you get to the end. I'll do that and I'll come back to show you what we have. Welcome back. Remember, this is e-design and craft tutorials. So I have finished fixing the trimming. Please ensure you buy lace trimming for this. I finished sewing the lace trimming to the side. You can see it. I finished sewing it to the side, and I have inserted my rope. This is the rope. I said you can use a ribbon for this. It's maybe an 1/2 inch ribbon. You can use it. So I've inserted my rope. I have sewn my trimming to the side. So this is what I have. I told you I was going to show you what you need this while you're sewing this place to have a partition. So at this point, if you have your fiber, this part was cut out of the pattern that I made, the part that had that coffee end. You place it on your fiber, you trace, you mark a point and you cut. When you're cutting it, let it be about 1 inch. Let the fiber be about 1 inch shorter than this pattern. You can cut about 4 pieces of your fiber. fiber. After cutting, we are going to insert it into this place. We'll insert it into this bigger space. This place has a bigger opening. So what I did was, I got this foam. This foam is about 3.5 inches. The thickness is about 3.5 inches. If you check it, this might be like about one of these will make like 4 layers. 4 layers of the fiber will make this thickness. So I don't have a fiber handy, and I saw this in a baby crib that somebody bought from the market. So I decided to give it a try here. So what I did was, I placed this edge of my lining on this foam, and I trimmed to have this coffee end. You can see it's not corner, it's kind of coffee. That's what you do to your fiber, with your fiber. So the next thing I'll do is I'll put this foam inside this space. If you're using a flatter foam of maybe about ½ inch or 1 inch, you know that you have to put lots of layers. Maybe you have to put, like, if you're using ½ inch, you have to put like 6 layers to make it thick, depending on how high you want your baby crib to be. So I finished fixing the foam. You can see I fixed the foam. You can see it. I fixed the foam to the inside this place. So the next thing I'll do is you stitch the opening. That's the wider opening where you inserted either the foam or the fiber. You stitch it, you fold it about ½ inch in. After folding, you stitch it. I'll do that and come back to show you what next. So I have stitched to close the opening. So the next thing I'll do now is I will insert my foam. At this point, if you have your Dacron, you start inserting, but I'm using pieces of foam. So inside this space, I'll start inserting my pieces of foam. You insert and push in, until it is filled. So I finished filling it. After filling it, I filled all around. You can see I filled all around. After filling, the next thing I'll do is, okay, what you do is, before filling this part, you fold ½ inch and iron. After filling, you now sew what you folded. You sew it neatly with a sewing machine. So you sew here to close this point. You do the same thing for this other side. You fold ½ inch in neatly, and then you sew. So I'm going to do that and then come back to show you. So I have finished closing this place. I've sewn it to close. So the next thing I'll do is I'll drag this rope. The next thing I'll do is I'll drag this rope. I'll drag it. And then I drag this side. You can see that our baby bed is formed already. We drag it tightly to join it together. You can see why I said you can decide to use the same material as your lining, since the lining is going to show under. The lining is going to show like this, so it is advisable you use the same material. If you want to have something like this, my own, then you can use something different. So you tie it nicely. our baby bed is ready. We cut off whatever is left. Cut it off. Or you hide it. So our baby bed is ready. As you can see, all these things are very easy to make. Our baby bed is ready. It's very nice. Let's see. It's ready. So if you're making it for sale, I would advise you use Decron. Although this one is still very nice. Then there was one I saw at a friend's place. Instead of using these pieces of foam, the people who made it cut this 3 inches foam that I used inside. They cut a very long one, and as in this height, the height of this place, and then they cut a very long one and then inserted it into the space here. It will still give the same thing, so you can try to experiment and see what you have. So our baby bed, our baby crib is ready. You can decide to make your own bigger. You can decide to make 50 inches. You can decide to make 60 inches by 30 inches. Know that the longer your length, the longer your final product will be. So this one is nice and it's portable. You can decide to make bigger than this. It's your choice. So that's the end of our training on baby crib making. Remember, this is e-design and craft tutorials. Thanks for watching.